Episode 3, Life Lessons from the Back of a Horse Truck. Today we're dealing with the big concept of shame, and I'm going to give you a little suggestion to combat shame, and I call it the empathy bomb. So, to start, who in their life or their riding career has been told, harden the up? Maybe you've heard some of its other variants. Maybe you've heard, will you just toughen up a bit? Or suck it up, princess. Maybe this has come from a coach. Maybe it's come from a parent. Maybe it's come from a friend or a work colleague. Maybe you even use it on yourself in your times of frustration as something of a mantra. The intention of this is to create a sense of shame, and it's usually very well intentioned. It's to create a sense of shame in order to get someone to do better, to motivate them to get up from wherever it is they are right now and make some big behavioural change. However well intentioned, the research says it doesn't work. And this is why. So, first of all, that message invalidates our emotional experience. So to say that we're not okay to be afraid or fearful, our brain doesn't cope with that. Our brain is in the middle of experiencing fear. And for someone, particularly a trusted person, to come along and say that emotional experience is invalid is very confusing for the brain. Even more so for a child who's got less life experience to call on, and for a student in a coaching situation, because so much implied trust has been given to that coach. What it says about the person who delivers the statement is it says, I see you in your struggle and I'm still not prepared to help you. In fact, your emotions make me uncomfortable and I'm going to shame you out of your dark experience out into the light where I'm happier. The big one is that shame is such a powerful emotion that it binds to a whole heap of other emotions. It can bind to anger and fear and be expressed something like, I wouldn't be so scared if I wasn't such a sook. It can even be attached to positive emotions like joy, and that will leave you feeling, in times of real happiness, it'll leave you feeling really undeserved, like you don't deserve to be that happy. So even if it does make that behavioural change, in the long term, shame doesn't work. Our culture at large is incredibly shame prone, and for me, the two hotspot areas of shaming practice have been motherhood and riding. Unsurprisingly, because these are the areas where I am most vulnerable and most exposed to judgment. These are the areas where I need the most help from other people, and these are the areas where I'm doing the things that I care about incredibly deeply and I care about the most. So, it's no surprise that judgments in this particular area hurt. Our entire being has actually come to be because of judgment. It's deeply embedded in our ancestors. Their evolution depended on being able to judge the difference between bad and good, being able to judge the difference between safe and dangerous, even the ability to judge the difference between a good mate and a bad mate. But where we get it a little wrong is where we start developing what I call the judgment bomb, completely non-essential judgments that don't improve our evolutionary chances of success at all. They're usually founded on very little information. They can be about ourselves or about others. They usually come about in the form of, deciding that that someone is weak because they're obviously nervous before a competition. deciding that someone's a bad mother because they're watching their phone more than their children, deciding that someone's got all the gear and no idea because they've missed 3 times in a row. But what if that person who was nervous before competition had just been told one more failure and you're off the squad? What if that mother had just received news of a death in the family and she was anxiously awaiting more news and struggling to cope? What if that girl with all the gear and no idea was actually carrying a really bad injury that was impeding her? If you use empathy instead and you put yourselves in that person's shoes, what could you say instead that would be helpful for you? Would harden up help you in that situation? I don't really think so. So, here's my challenge. Instead of dropping these judgment bombs, I want to start a movement where we drop empathy bombs instead. That in that moment where we see someone in struggle and we go to judge them, that instead we consider what it's like to be them. And we even step back into our own feelings of struggle. We might not have been in that situation that that person is in, or we might have been in that situation, but our reactions were completely different. It matters not, because you can totally identify with what's going on for that person. Every single person has shame. We all have to deal with the scars of shame. And so we can empathise with that person even if their situation is different. So instead of judging them, imagine the power of being able to say instead, I see you, and I've been there, and yeah, that's really hard. I totally get it. I want you to share this video with the hashtag #IDropEmpathyBombs. I am so passionate about this particular message because this is how me, you, and all the people in the world, we can make the world a better place, even as individuals. This is such a little thing to do with such a profound impact. I promise that if you can commit to I Drop Empathy Bombs, that you will make your world a better place on the inside and the out.